Indra, and I'd like to welcome you to the Messy Middle Matters, where my friends and I explore all the twists, turns, and challenges that arise in the messy middle of work.
Hey, everyone. Today we're talking about being at career crossroads. And it's that messy middle moment that so many of us find ourselves in, where, you don't know, do you go left, right, straight. Like everyone's had one, I think. If you've lived life in the workplace, everyone's had one. And joining me for this conversation is Juleen.
Hi, everyone.
And I'm so excited. But for everyone to get to know you a little bit better, I'm going to ask you my favorite interview question. I learned it from a man named Lou Adler. There's a setup to it. So hopefully everybody gives me a little bit grace with the setup and some patience. But what I'd love to hear about and what I'd love for you to share with everyone is an accomplishment that you found especially satisfying. What was your role in that accomplishment? Who were you surrounded by in the accomplishment? I would love to hear all about those little details that stick out for you in that. And beyond those details, what I'd love to hear about is why that accomplishment was so especially satisfying for you. Like, why was that thing that felt so darn good? And, for people, when I ask this question, sometimes a professional example comes to mind. Sometimes a personal example comes to mind. I'll take either one. Does anything come to mind for you that you're happy to share with us today?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, earlier this year, I took a leap of faith and I put my belongings in storage and I packed up my car with my 2 cats and I drove across the country to Las Vegas. And it was interesting. It was very interesting. Being in a car with 2 cats, not for everybody, but,
I have a friend who did that. That's like, there's a lot to it. Yeah.
Yeah. The cats have a mind of their own, but they did great. Could not complain. But what was important for me is it was a time in my life where I needed to try something new. And I am very much a creature of habit and I like safe and I like, the things right? And you stay where you're comfortable. Yeah. And so doing that was me stepping out of a big comfort zone, but that drive not only gave me the ability to see new things and have a new perspective internally and externally, but it also gave me this newfound trust in myself, that I could trust myself to do things and that I would make it through that step. So now I believe that I can do something that's outside of my comfort zone and that I have the skills that I need to get there, if that makes sense.
It really does. Like, 2 things come to mind. One is somebody once taught me that comfort and safety are not the same thing.
Right.
Which I feel, that's a really important thing, especially, I find it especially useful in the context of work. Because what feels like, let's not rock the boat, let's, make sure that we can go home at 5:00 so that we can go to our kids, softball game or whatever, but that doesn't, especially in today's workplace, like, I feel like literally every week there's some massive layoff announcement for the past year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
And so say comfort and safety, not the same. So that comes to mind. And I'd say the doing of the hard things, and taking that leap, the best things in my life have been when I've just leapt and didn't know if the ground was going to show up. Right. And so I would say, honestly, I'm probably somewhere in the middle of a mid free fall right now. I'm trusting the ground is there because I too have gone through lots of changes in the past few years. And I'm big leap of faith. That your story really resonates.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't know if the ground is there. I'm hoping it is. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, I think it's called Divergent, with Shailene Woodley. But in the first movie, it's like a trilogy. But in the first movie, there's a scene where these kids have to jump off of a building. They have no idea if there is ground below. Yeah. And they just have to jump.
You got to take that leap of faith.
And it's, yeah.
And I think to me, when you're at a crossroads, at the end of the day, the choice, there's never really that's absolutely the way I should go. Right. You're it's a toss up no matter what. one is maybe more likely to be successful, the other is less likely to be successful, but neither is guaranteed.
Right. So it's definitely a risk either way.
Yeah, but you came back too, so you did the trip backwards too.
I did the trip backwards as well, by myself in a car with 2 cats, and that's always interesting as well because you're doing all of the driving yourself. It's a lot of mileage for sure. Yeah. Sometimes you're like, I'm never going to get there. You're like, I've driven 100 miles, but I still got 2,600 more miles to go.
But you made it. You made it. But you made it.
So yeah, I just looked at it in 100-mile intervals. Like, yeah, I was like, okay. And we made it, the next one and the next one and the next one. But yeah, and so I would kind of do it almost like in 8-hour shifts, like as a work day.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah. And that's, so what drove you to take that trip, there was probably a turning point that was there. And, you and I met at a networking event. And one of the things that stuck out in our conversations was really the struggle that so many of us are in the middles of our careers, like being title driven and moving up to that, the next level versus something else. And I don't even want to qualify what that's just, or qualify any of it, what that something else is. Like I feel like that's a crossroad that so many, even when I'm reading in the press, so many people are really trying to navigate. Like, do I chase that next title? Is that the thing that's the right thing for me for whatever list of reasons? Or is something different what I want to do? Yeah.
Totally. I think that, there's this notion that people have of consistently climbing I believe they refer to it as the golden ladder. Yeah. And, you climb. But at the end of the day, all of that climbing, is it getting you where you actually want to be? Is that the joy and satisfaction that you're looking for? And I don't know.
It's so funny. Like for me, it's been, the reason that I've climbed has been my desire to create a greater impact.
Right.
And for the people that surround me, for whatever it might be. And what I've found is that with every step up that ladder, I just find a different set of obstacles to making that impact. It's not the
not a newly paved road.
No, you're like, oh, if I get into that room, I'll be able to change. Oh, no. Okay, okay. Then if I get into that room, and that to me has been the biggest aha moment. And does the title matter, or is it more important? Because I've always been I've been externally driven, right? Like I want to create impact for others, but it's forced me to look at myself and like, what do I want to create for myself, right? And I think that that's the other path that some of us are exploring.
No, totally. I think that you have to come to that realization of what brings you joy, but also what can you do that when you go to sleep at night or when you wake up in the morning, you are content with yourself. Yes. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people wake up and they're on the hamster wheel every day. It's just what you do. It's what you learned from generations before. You get a job, you go to work, you do the things, and you provide, and and that's it. Yes. There's the people who we know as the great artists of the past, that's like they were the minority in that sense. Yes. Everybody else was just
surviving.
Right, exactly.
Genuinely, or just doing the thing that's expected, right? And one of the things that you said to me in that conversation, in our first conversation, was the pressure of picking the struggle.
Yes.
Right? I think it was the way you outlined for me was career, family, self are three of the more familiar ones for folks.
Totally. So for me, it's, do I continue to climb in my career and go to that next path? Because currently I don't have a family. I don't have a husband or children. Sure. So while in lieu of that, I should be continuing to climb that ladder. But also then when you think about the self part of it, as I'm climbing that corporate ladder, where do I fall into that? How am I pouring into myself? Where is that self-love, as people like to say, or just, that joy? What makes me content? One of the small things that makes me content, people think I'm crazy, but I like to walk around the mall. Even though like I'm not shopping, I just like, I'll be one of those elderly folks that are in the morning at 7 a.m. walking around getting their steps. Like that will be me.
That person someday.
I will be that person.
I know the Jersey
that.
girl in me, but
right. But like I will be that person because I like to walk.
Yeah.
But I also don't like to be outside in the elements all the time. So the mall gives you this enclosed space.
Yeah.
You can be in there, rain, sleet, snow, whatever. And you can just walk endlessly.
Yeah. And like what I love is you also get to see what's happening.
Yes. And you get to people watch.
And like one of the things that one of my role models in life is Joan Rivers. And people will laugh at this bit of advice that I follow of hers, but I just, they may or may not, but people asked her, like, how do you stay young? Like, how do you stay vibrant? She's like, I just pay attention to what the young people are doing. And going to the mall is a perfect way to do that, right? And stay relevant. But, like, when you shared that story, the thing I think I shared with you was I've got to look to make sure I'm pronouncing her name properly. Tashunda Brown Duckett. She's a CEO of TIAA Craft. And I'd seen a video that sparked for me when you mentioned that was like, she likes to live her life like a diversified portfolio.
Interesting.
And, yes. And so for folks who are not familiar with portfolio management, because everyone's in different journeys when it comes to their financials, like in your portfolio, when you're managing your money in a perfect state, you'll have, like a little bit of tech stocks, a little bit of like the tried and true trusted stocks. You might have some bonds, which are but the point is your money isn't all on Apple, right? Because what happens if Apple goes sideways? And so in her example is like, because she's a mother and she has all these things, but it's like she's like, I might be a not so great mother on one day, but I might be a great CEO today. But she looks at the long game. And that's the point of portfolio management is like, you don't look at like you don't measure your portfolio on that day. You measure it over the long haul.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. And I think that for a lot of people, we're stuck on what I didn't accomplish today, what I didn't accomplish this week. And then, social media doesn't help with giving people the ability to really forge their own path and be on their own timeline, because you'll see on social media everyone's highlights, right? They show it's the highlight reel of their life. They don't show the struggles. They don't show all of those things. Yeah. But then the individuals who do show the struggles, then it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't, because a lot of people are always like, well, you set up the camera to cry? And it's like, well, okay. So, you know what I mean? I don't think their intention was to set up the camera and then like pour the Visine in like the guy from Love is Blind and then start crying. Like, I don't think that's what it is. No. But I think they were in an emotional state and they were like, maybe I should capture this moment. Yeah. And then they decided to share it. Yeah. I think more people than not, there are some people who are in it for selfish, right? The clicks. Yeah. But I do think more often than not, when people are sharing, those vulnerable moments, it's because they felt like it was something that they should capture. And then they decided to share it because they felt like maybe it would resonate with someone else. I think that's, when people are doing it with the right intentions, they're trying to help others feel seen. Like, you're not alone in this. And that's a lot of what this podcast is about, is trying to make sure like we're in this together, because people don't talk about this stuff. They don't. And it's in this world of where AI is surging. Oh, the imperfections are much more welcome. Like, I think that people are like, that was real. Like, it made me feel a little when she was talking about it, but like, no, that was real. And like that, once I got past my it felt a little bit better. Yeah. And like one of the other things that we were just talking about a minute ago also was, and we haven't talked about this, if you don't want to go there, that's totally fine, is filling your own cup. Like, I'm single, child-free, my plants I take care of my plants at home.
but it's when you're living that kind of life, people look at it and they often think, oh, it's just so easy. You don't need to worry about anyone else. Like in some ways, I don't need to argue with anyone as to whether or not I left that sock on the floor or not. Right. But it is the onus on, filling your cup, or even like I was talking to my friend Ashley about this, like one of the hardest things, I was like, girl, I'm like, I totally agree, is picking out what you're eating for every single meal every day. These are such small things that people, don't think about, but like this, it's just like a decision fatigue of like, what am I eating now? What am I eating? There's so many things that, there's just so many different things, and filling the cup. Like, do you have any, like, how do you fill your cup when you're in those types of scenarios? Do you have any sort of like store, or even, commiserations? I don't know.
Totally. I think that when I wasn't filling my cup, I was in a state of doom scrolling, or like letting,
that high from doom scrolling.
Right. Doom scrolling. I'll end up down a rabbit hole of things that I didn't know I wanted to know about. And then, or I'd like lay on the couch and stare at the ceiling for hours, and time would pass. But I think for me now, what filling my cup means is going to the gym, maybe going to the salon and getting a blowout, walking around the mall.
Yes.
Another thing that's big for me is I like to go to the movies. I go to the movies by myself. I just like to go to movies. I want to see a movie. I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm going to go watch it.
People think that's so brave, but it's lovely.
I don't know what, like, you sit on the couch and watch TV by yourself. Why can't you go to the movie theater and go watch? It's anywho. I'm going to movies tomorrow by myself, by the way.
Nice.
So, it's one of those things where I'll go see a movie. I'm like, oh, I liked it, And now I feel like I'm in the know when everybody's posting about it on social media. They're like, oh, the critics are saying whatever. I'm like, well, I saw it. I didn't have to wait until a friend or a guy or whomever wanted to go with me. Like, if you wait for people in your life to have the time or the schedule or flexibility to do things, you might never get.
Right. And that's, especially hard when I'm going to bring us back to our topic, is I'm thinking going back to crossroads. Like, if you're sitting there at a traffic light or whatever, like proverbial traffic light, and you're waiting for the sign, you're not going anywhere. You're going to get stuck. And that could lead to another whole set of frustrations or resentments or whatever it might be, and choosing to go left or right. Like, for me, so for me, one of the things around trying to propel myself forward, I know we've talked about this a little bit before, and that's this podcast is part of that, but is like in the workplace, to propel yourself forward as you move up the career ladder or lattice or career path or whichever framework we want to talk about. The creation of content feels so much more necessary and less of a opt-in and more of a expectation.
Totally. I feel like in certain ways, depending on what industry you're in, content can be your resume at this point, right? Maybe more important than your CV.
It can be.
It can be, depending on the industry. Right? For someone like me who, what I do professionally in finance, I don't really see it as a content path for myself, but I do see the crossroads that I'm at in life as a topic for content, right? I think about who can I connect with based on what I'm experiencing. We're the most connected we've ever been in society, but we're also the loneliest we've ever been. And how does that translate for other individuals? You're not alone in that, So how can I take what I do in a corporate manner, but also translate that to content, whether it's related to what I do professionally or just related to me as an individual?
Yeah, because the content helps. I think that part of why people like the content is it helps humanize the resume, right? They're like, okay, I see her CV, I see what she's done, I see her accomplishments, but like, what is she to work like, right? And even though, there is, no matter what the format is, there is some version of editing that happens with these things, whether we're editing our words before we say them or we're literally editing afterwards. it still gives people a vibe for who you are. And the other thing, I'd be curious to know your experience with this, like creating content for me helps me work through whether it's the podcast or if I'm creating short videos or if I'm creating blog posts, it helps me think through who I am and what I value, which then helps me figure out which path might be the next one when when I find myself at another crossroads. I don't know if you've had any experience.
You know, funny enough, yesterday I shared a story on Instagram and I talked about a topic that was pretty vulnerable to me. And I just happened to have a moment that I wanted to record. And I spoke on the topic very, very briefly. It was like a minute long story. And I had so many people respond and say, I did not know that that happened to you. I did not know that you'd experienced that. Oh my gosh, like, how are you? How can I support you? Like, if you ever need to talk. And that was very interesting to me because I took a leap of faith to hit that post button.
Yes. That was a leap of faith and a crossroads. Do I post? Do I not post?
Do I post? Do I not post? Yeah. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfectly articulated. You could hear me stutter in it, but I posted it anyway because that was the genuine, raw. I was like, I'm not.
It was honest. It was honest, and I think that's where being at crossroads. I think that it requires you to be really honest with yourself. But what you're talking about is it was an invitation for your community to support you and help you through that transition, whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's interesting to see who connects with what content because it's always different people. And honestly, sometimes it's the most unexpected people who connect on different content topics. Yeah. And that's why I think they always say, like, post everything because you never know what moment it's gonna go viral.
And you're so right. And it's for me, one of the funny things is I have friends who have had for like 30 plus years. And when I post stuff, they're like, it's so interesting to see what they react to. Because like, to me, I mean, they're my dearest friends, but I don't think of them as my audience. And I'm like, they learned something more about me. And I learned something more about them through that.
I'll block family members from my stories, okay? I don't need anybody calling my mother, calling this person, having a talk about it in the family chat.
But I think that protecting your peace, I think, is also really important at those crossroads. Like, you don't want to publicize all parts of your crossroads to everyone because that invites people from the cheap seats.
Right.
Sharing their opinions.
Right. And then, sometimes it's hard to differentiate. As much as we want to filter out the negative, it can still impact you.
It does.
Even on a minute level, it's there.
It does. And even because when people see your vulnerability, often their insecurities surface and then they project stuff onto you. And there's, even if you're able to deflect that deflection takes energy and it doesn't.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like we referenced, pouring into myself, and I do a lot of things solo for not waiting for other people to do it. Yeah. And some people see that as, oh, she's doing things by herself. She must be so lonely. She must be alone. No, I can call a number of people to do activities with me, but do I wait for everyone's schedule to align, or do I just live my life?
Because it's your path. It's your path, not theirs. And it's the only way you're going to figure out left, right, or center.
Right. And I think sometimes a perception of what you see of someone isn't always the reality.
It's never the reality. Because everyone's got their own inner world. Everyone's got their own inner world that no one is going to get to see. That no one is going to get to see.
Totally.
Covered a lot of good ground.
We did.
We've covered a lot of good ground. I'm trying to think through if there's anything else. Is there anything else that you might want to explore or share?
It's a leap of faith for me to do this podcast.
And I'm so grateful that you'd have.
It's, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone, getting more comfortable, speaking about myself, being more public, from a professional lens. There were a lot of times in my career where self-promotion was important. And I was like, oh, my work speaks for me. I don't know how to talk about myself. Like my work speak for me, you know?
Keep talking. Yeah.
But then sometimes you would see that roles or that promotion would go to someone who knew how to elaborate more about what they did. Even though you know the end product that you did was better, they could speak to the journey they took, the logic they took, all of that stuff. And it's like, even though it wasn't stitched properly, for lack of a better phrase, and yours was perfection, they could speak to it more. And that was more important.
Thank you. Yeah, because like I'm as you're telling that, I'm just seeing myself, I'm seeing others throughout parts of, our respective careers and journeys. And it is so true. I think that I'll say as women, minorities, et cetera, need to learn to self-promote a little bit more, especially those of us who are in background roles. Like you're finance, I'm operations and program management. Like we're used to fading in the back, but being in that room and being the one to tell the story of our work is so important. Deciding to do that is a huge part.
It is for sure. And, being content within yourself that you are able to articulate it in a way that makes sense to your audience, but also is true to you.
100%. Thank you for including that. That's so important and so rich. Juleen, I'm so grateful. We are new friends. I'm so grateful that you've joined me here today and trusted me for this.
I'm glad you asked.
Well, and thank you for joining us. Goodness gracious me and my messy stuff. I hope you all got something good out of it as well. And I hope you join us next time when we cover another topic from the messy middle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in-between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.